Hey friends, you might know that I'm a big fan of Playwright CodeGen because it allows me to create Playwright scripts by pressing some buttons. But now that we're in the era of AI and LLMs, people keep asking me if I use ChatGPT or Claude for my Playwright scripting. And let me tell you, I was very skeptical at first, but I will show you what I found in this video. Let's go. To kick things off, let's try to generate and create a test case that tests the Playwright documentation. This test case should emulate an iPhone, open the Playwright docs, click the search button, look for locator, click the first result, and then check if there is a headline or a heading visible that includes the word locator. This is a fairly straightforward Playwright test case example, so how long will it take us to generate this test the old school way, without any AI magic? Let's find out and kick off a new Playwright CodeGen session. So I call npx Playwright CodeGen here on my terminal, and we're already defining that we want to use an iPhone 11, and the session should start at playwright.dev. If you haven't used CodeGen, the command will open up two windows. One will be a browser window with some fancy injected JavaScript, and it will run in recording mode. And then we will have the Playwright inspector that will show us the resulting code of all the actions that we take here in the browser window. And you see that it already instructed to use an iPhone 11. And now we only have to go into the browser window. We have to click search. We have to look for locator, click the first result. And now we can even add an assertion and we can say, okay, we want that there's a heading with the name locators to be visible. And that's it. We can now take this generated code and paste it into our spec file. Let's give our test a proper name. So search Playwright docs, and let's call it CodeGen. And now we already can go back to the terminal and we can call it Playwright test. Here we go. And that's it. Now be aware that Playwright CodeGen isn't perfect, but it's giving its best to provide you good Playwright code. So first of all, you see here that Playwright CodeGen prefers using get by locators. These are the recommended approach to write end-to-end tests with Playwright because they're user first. Additionally, it's also using web first assertions. So it is using to be visible. I see a lot of people mixing up and failing on using these best practices. So this is definitely where CodeGen comes in very handy. And the best thing is that this took us now not even 20 seconds without any effort. It's not perfect, and you should always double check that the generated Playwright code is what you expect. So for example, we could now also remove this click here, and maybe we want to extract some variables or add some additional assertions, but the bar is very high here. Let's see what ChatGPT can do. I will use ChatGPT 4.0 with the new canvas feature that is currently still in beta. So let's take our game plan from earlier. Here we have it. So write a Playwright test using test and expect. I added this line, and we want to do the same things. Set an iPhone, navigate to Playwright, perform a search, and then check that the headline includes the word locator or locators and that it will be visible. Let's see. All right. It's doing its thing. It's generating a Playwright test. Here we go. We have some things. So let's inspect what we get. All right. So we're defining a new Playwright test. That looks good. Then we have here page set viewport size with some magic numbers. I don't like that. Playwright comes with configuration for this. So let's see if we can tweak it. Could you use devices for the iPhone size? All right. That's already better. We now brought in devices and we are calling test use with iPhone 12 configuration. So this is cool. Let's move on and check the locators and actions. So ChatGPT decided here to use page click and page fill, and using these methods is pretty discouraged right now because Playwright recommends to always define a locator and then call the action on it. So it should be locator.click or locator.fill. And speaking of locators, Playwright also recommends to not use the locator function unless absolutely necessary and go with user-first or role-based locators instead. So let's try to fix this another time. Could you please use the recommended role-based locators? Get by role, get by label, ... All right, let's see. this already looks better. We now have role-based locators. So we have here get by role, get by placeholder. So this looks good. Then we're clicking any link in the page. So the first link on the page, and we click it. Let's see if this works. Then we're locating a heading with the level 1, and then we check that it's visible and that it contains the text locator. I think we should just try it, huh? So we're here in UI mode. I already copy and pasted over the code that we just generated, right? So here we have our ChatGPT collaboration because we had a little chat with ChatGPT. This is the code that we just generated. And let's see what happens. I'm excited. Let's go. All right, so it's navigating to the Playwright docs. We have the right viewport size, but we're going to Algolia, and this test case didn't work. Let's see what happened. So navigating to Playwright, that works. We click the right button, and honestly, I'm already surprised that ChatGPT guessed the right button name, but I guess search isn't very uncommon. And it even hit the correct input box and then clicked the first link before all the other search results were back, which then opened up the Algolia window. And yeah, so this is a failing test case. But honestly, I'm surprised that ChatGPT got the first 2 actions right. So we now had a conversation with an LLM telling it about best practices, and we pretty much ended up in a debugging session. Compared to Playwright CodeGen, where we can just record something, it took us 15 seconds and it works. I think this is pretty convincing. And you might now say, sure, ChatGPT didn't know what it's dealing with. And that's correct. So let's try to extend our prompt so that we don't have to remind the LLM about best practices all the time, and then provide more context when asking for Playwright test generation. But what's a better prompt? To understand how good Claude or ChatGPT prompts look like, I went to Cursor Directory, which is a collection of prompts that you can define and set in the Cursor AI editor. When you inspect these prompts, you will always find that they kick off with an instruction to the LLM telling it what it should be. So expert in TypeScript, senior front-end developer, senior TypeScript programmer, an expert in TypeScript Node.js. So this is kind of settling the stage. And this then is followed with some guidances on code style, naming convention, TypeScript usage, all the kind of things that you would care about and that you might bring up in a conversation with ChatGPT or Claude. With these example prompts, I came up with an improved Playwright prompt. So let me show it to you. You're an expert in TypeScript front-end development, Playwright end-to-end testing. You write concise technical TypeScript code. You always use the recommended built-in role-based locators. You use web-first assertion. You use built-in config objects, avoid hard-coded timeouts. So I basically list out all the things that I care about that should come out. And then I tell it what it should do. Write a Playwright test using test and expect in TypeScript. And here we have the test that we tried earlier. So let's run this advanced and improved prompt and let's see what we get. Here we go. Sure thing. Here we have our new test case. And of course, we still don't know if this test case will work because ChatGPT cannot know what we're dealing with. It's just guessing the locators. But in fact, this test already looks way, way better. It's extracting variables. And it's all just because we extended our prompt a little bit. And I think that's pretty cool. If you wonder now, but Stefan, what about Claude? I tried the same things with Claude. I had conversations, and also if we now paste our advanced Playwright prompt here, so here we have it, and give it to Claude. In my experience, the results were pretty much the same compared to ChatGPT with Canvas. So let's check the result. This looks okay-ish. It brings in devices. Where does it use it? It doesn't. All right. It's always good to import unnecessary variables and also to duplicate your import statements. So generally speaking, whenever you read or you hear someone saying just use Claude or an LLM or ChatGPT to generate your Playwright tests, I don't think it works this way. And you're better off by just using CodeGen. But let's check the results when we provide more context and not just kind of make a guessing game of what we're testing. Here I have a quick demo application that only includes a button that I can press a couple of times. And if I pressed it 3 times, it will tell me that I clicked the button too many times, and we will show this sad raccoon. This is all done via HTML and some inline JavaScript. And let's find out what happens when we provide more context, when we provide this HTML and JavaScript to ChatGPT and Claude. We can now paste an extended prompt into our little chat window. And you will find that we still have this lengthy prompt telling ChatGPT or the LLM what it should do and what it should be. So it's again an expert in TypeScript front-end development and Playwright. But then we're also providing the HTML and the JavaScript that is powering this little demo application. And then below, again, we tell ChatGPT what Playwright should do. So it should navigate to localhost 8080. It should click the increase button. It should check the counter. It should click the button 2 more times. Then we're expecting this message here to be visible and also that this image of this sad raccoon will be visible on the page. So let's see what happens now that we provided more context in our prompt. All right, so ChatGPT is doing its thing. Let's see what we get. All right. And honestly, now it gets interesting. When we inspect the generated Playwright code, it uses the recommended locators. This looks like a very decent Playwright code to me. It even extracted some variables, but it was smart enough to figure out that there is a test ID in our HTML code. And also when we inspect that this image here was visible, we didn't tell ChatGPT to check for this alt attribute, but it did because it was included in the context in the HTML that we provided. So we'll now run the same prompt in Claude and then let's see if this will actually work on first try. Back in UI mode, we now have here a new raccoon spec.ts and here are the 2 generated scripts coming from Claude and ChatGPT. Let's see what happens. All right, ChatGPT first. Here we go. So we're running the test and that was very quick. That is very green. Nice. Let's try Claude. The code was a little bit different, but I think it was still fairly good Playwright code. So let's run Claude. Here we go. And here we also have a green test case. And I must tell you that I didn't expect this. By adjusting the prompt and providing more context when talking to the LLM, we were able to generate a simple but still good and passing Playwright test that is following all the recommendations. So it's actually good code, generated in only a couple of seconds. But what does that mean now for us in generating Playwright scripts using AI? Whenever you read or hear someone saying, just use ChatGPT or an LLM to generate your Playwright code, I don't think it works that way. You should at least use a specialized prompt that kind of settles the stage so that you get good Playwright code and not code that is 3 or 4 years old. And even then, you must make it to provide as much context as possible. So JavaScript files, HTML files, everything that is powering your application. In our example, it was just a simple HTML file. Usually, web applications are way more complex. And pasting all this code into a chat window is probably not a scalable solution. So that Playwright Code Gen is still a good way to create and generate Playwright scripts quickly. But what happens when you use an AI editor like GitHub Copilot or Cursor? These tools automatically apply all this context. Will they be able to generate and help you out with Playwright scripting? Honestly, I don't know yet, because we're all learning all this new technology. And I will spend the next weeks playing around and researching GitHub Copilot and Cursor to see how good they are at generating and creating Playwright code. So make sure to subscribe to catch the next video. If you have any comments or questions, drop them below. I would love to know if you're using AI in your Playwright scripting. And if you have any tips, please let me know too. I'm very eager to level up my AI game. And with that, we're done for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video about synthetic monitoring with Checkly, Playwright end-to-end testing, or now applying AI to your coding workflows. I will see you soon.